Furthermore, what about just saying "God damn"? Does that constitute blasphemy? To some, it would. And therefore, we're playing a semantic game, aren't we? We have degrees of blasphemy now, and differing definitions of blasphemy. At what point? Where is that line drawn? What about saying "Jesus Christ" in exclamation because you've stubbed your toe or something? Is that blasphemy? To some, yes. And just like, now in Ireland there is a blasphemy law that is policeable. It's insane. There is a blasphemy law in a Western English-speaking nation. It is now illegal in Ireland to blaspheme, whatever the hell that means. And let's not beat about the bush here. Just like I said in my video dealing specifically with the Northern Ireland blasphemy law, this is not a law that's designed to protect against blasphemy. This is a law that's designed to protect particular culturally pervasive religious groups. That's it. It is not going to be liberally applied. It's not going to be fairly applied because there are certain religious perspectives that are predominant in Irish culture, i.e. the Catholic and the Protestant, or the predominantly Christian. If a pagan or if a Muslim or anyone of any other religious persuasion brought a case for blasphemy, I imagine it wouldn't even get to court. I imagine it would be laughed out. However, I imagine that if a member of one of the culturally predominant churches brought a blasphemy claim, it would be considered. It would get to church, it would get to court, depending upon its nature. So what this law and what other laws pertaining to blasphemy would effectively do is give particular ideological groups power, cultural influence, legal influence that other groups do not have. That's the long and short of it. And in the English-speaking world, in Britain in particular, those groups would be Christianity and Islam. Particular permutations of Christianity and Islam would gain power that other groups don't have, and it would be appalling. If that kind of law came into effect here, I would do everything in my power to get out and go and move to a sane nation of some sort. Because that, for me, would be the beginning of the end. That would be the, that would be the ultimate kick to the crotch for freedom of speech. There wouldn't be any. It wouldn't exist. And unfortunately, there have been events over the past decade or so that have demonstrated this erosion of freedom of speech. There was... brought to my attention exclusively through YouTube, actually. I can't quite remember the specifics, but there was a poet whose work was going to be sold through Waterstones, which was published by my friend Rowan Fortune Wood's father's company, the Cinnamon Press, small press in Wales. And because one or two of the poems were passively critical of Christianity, or particular forms of Christianity, you had those lunatics from the Christian Voice movement. You know, the ones led by Stephen Green, who protested against Joe Springer the Opera. Fucking idiots, quite frankly. Protesting outside of Waterstones, and as a result, Waterstones reneged on their contract, and they didn't sell the book. This situation should not happen. I mean, I doubt you'd have even heard of the poet. I hadn't heard of him, and I haven't even heard of the book. You know, it's not even that significant. It's not even like the situation you had in the 80s, or was it the 90s, with Salman Rushdie's Satanic Verses, where you had widespread uproar and threats of violence from the Muslim population, because the Satanic Verses is passively critical of particular forms of Islam, and it is passively critical. All the book dares to say is that Mecca is built on a temple that was once dedicated to goddesses. And it's right. It's true. That is historically verifiable. But even so, that was enough to cause fatwas and death threats against the author. Nevertheless, Waterstones actually went out of its way to publish and to sell the Satanic Verses, but it seems to have done a volte-face insofar as this very small book of poetry is concerned. It is appalling. This kind of pressure should never be capitulated to. If these people don't want to read or be subjected to whatever material offends them, then they don't have to fucking read it, do they? They don't have to fucking watch it. There are multiple TV channels, especially with Sky and Digital, turn over. But do not dare presume that you have the right to stop other people from watching or otherwise consuming these materials who might get something laudable out of it. And it is this underlying notion that is escalating, particularly I've noticed in English culture at the moment, whereby people seem to think they have the right not to be offended by something, ideologically offended or morally offended or whatever. Why? Where is that written? Is there some sort of fundamental human condition or law of reality that states that thou shalt not ever allow offence to stand? I mean, what does that mean anyway? I'm offended by that. And people say it as if it's an argument in and of itself. So what? What do you mean you're offended by it? In what way are you offended by it? And what is that experience? For me, the experience of being offended by something means that the parameters in your mind have been challenged, they've been breached or shifted. And that's a good thing, especially when it's coming from ideological sources or creative sources, because this is the purpose of creative mediums insofar as I'm concerned. They should allow you to shift and change the parameters of your definition of self, of your ideological perspectives, and of the way they inform your sense of self. That's what they're for. If a work doesn't do that, then it's failing. It's why I hate British soaps so much, because they do exactly the opposite. Rather than challenging people's preconceptions, they reinforce them again and again and again and again. They are very insidious soaps. People pretend not to take them seriously, but they do. This is the funny thing. Soap fans, I've noticed it consistently. If you sit with a consistent soap fan and listen to what they say when they're watching the soap, you will find that they base ideological perspectives on what happens in the soap as if it's reality, as if it's some measure of reality. And it's insane. It's utterly insane. They don't reflect reality at all. There's more reality in Lord of the Rings than there is in the average soap. B, they reinforce these particular cultural stereotypes, these templates of being and ambitions. In a soap, you're supposed to have only one ambition. You're supposed to want a two-story house with a couple of bedrooms, maybe a conservatory if you have lofty ambitions. You want to be married by the age of 30, and you want 2.4 children, and preferably you want to be white as well, and of no particular deviant religious perspectives or anything to that effect. That's what soaps reinforce, and they reinforce it again and again and again and again and again and again, and they do it insidiously. That's why I fucking hate them. I find soaps offensive in a particular way, but I wouldn't want to silence them. If I had the power, if I had a button right now, and I had the power to stop or to eliminate soaps from history, I wouldn't do it. Because it's not my place to fucking do it. If people want to watch them, that's their business.